right. Well, you could be early because if you tell people that you're going to be at one time, and then you could show up a little early, which is what we are doing today. We have shown up just a little bit early. Go ahead and record that. We need to keep an eye on our battery level for the mic too, because it's kind of low. So welcome everybody that is here. I know we're just a couple of minutes early on here, but here we go. There you go. So, whoa, we don't want any feedback. There we go. Volume off on that one. So
You don't want the volume going?
Well, no, they don't need to hear us twice.
Really? I thought they did.
Oh, you know. Maybe it'll make it sink in.
Okay, everybody. Today's unicorn is drumroll, please.
I think this is the unicorn of the week, not of the day. Like
Probably the week. Okay.
Okay, good. That's enough. You're such a bum. All right, so I've been trying to think about what to do for the different videos and what to have the girls do and what to have them work on, and I was about ready to have them actually do a project today, but then I got thinking about some of the finish work on that, and these girls don't know anything yet about files or how to use a file. You did use the file a little bit, huh?
For the rings?
Yes, for the rings we did do a little bit of filing, but on this one, I want to show you.
A lot of filing?
Well, I want to show you some of the different types of files that you can have. And I'm going to show you guys some very inexpensive files all the way through some files that are a bit more of an investment. Okay, and their quality, you can definitely tell the files that you've only spent a few dollars on versus those that you might spend $50 to $60 on. So yeah, you are off the screen.
I'm always off the screen.
There you go. Now you're in the screen a little bit.
Well, she's on this side, then I would probably be better over there because then you could, they could see her and they could still see me because I'm smaller than her.
Maybe so. Maybe so. All right. So when you very first get started, well, okay, I don't know about you guys. When I first got started doing jewelry, I went on the cheap. You know, this was when I learned to do some of this jewelry stuff. I was teaching computer programming languages and web development. I mean, I was in a completely different field, and never ever in a million years did I ever dream that I would make jewelry, or two, look at where it has gone, and now I'm one of the authority figures, which is so crazy. But, you know, I never dreamed that. So why would I make that kind of an investment?
Because once it started happening, you're like, oh, maybe I should do this more now.
Maybe. But you want to know, even at that, even when I finally, okay, so here's kind of the story.
Married you?
Well, Daddy was already married to me. But anyway, here's part of the story. So when I got into doing jewelry when I lived in Virginia, my husband was in school. We had one child at that point, and she was like 2 years old. And so I would go, what are you laughing at?
Dylan's saying for the hugs I gave him my hugs.
Well, good. Good. Kate's full of hugs. Kate's our hugger. Anyway, so
I was.
No, Kate's definitely the hugger.
Because sometimes when I hug you, I squeeze you really hard.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
I go and give my teachers hugs every morning.
Okay. Back to this. So what happened was Riley, my oldest, who was in college, she was only 2 years old at the time. My husband's nose was never out of the books, and I just needed some kind of an outlet. Now, at that point in time, you guys, I was the least creative person you have ever met in your entire life, and I'm not exaggerating. I know, it really does. Everybody's shocked. Well, when I started making jewelry, I was shocked. I was shocked that I was able to do that. And then I found out that I had kind of a natural knack for it. Now, while some of it comes naturally to me, it does not come easily to me. And you guys, there's a reason that you do not see a whole lot of jewelry from me, because it is very difficult for me a lot of times. And that gets into my headspace, and I don't create the way that I should or would want to. So it's something that I still have to continually work through. So even though I have the most amazing tools and everything like that, I have still major insecurities when it comes to designing and creating and making jewelry.
You don't see a whole ton of jewelry from you?
Not lately. Well, no, this is all tools. These are all tools. Okay, yeah, wow.
Jewelry.
Anyway, so it's something that I totally struggle with. And I know that there are a lot of people do too. Now, here's the one thing that I have found out. You can learn to be creative. Creativity is not always a God-given thing, and you're just born with it and blessed with it. Some people are definitely going to have some skills that other people don't have. Kate did not know how to draw. And you know what? She has worked so hard, and now she's absolutely amazing.
I still draw
think about
people.
when you very first started. Remember your pictures? Remember your pictures? Okay. Yep. See.
I still draw people.
Draw a stick figure. Okay. Well, draw a head, arms, and legs. Circle.
Yep. Those are my favorite.
That's what I do.
Those are my favorite drawings. Those are my favorite
Which
ones.
ones? Mine?
The ones that have the little blob, and then they have arms coming out the side and feet coming down the bottom.
Well, I don't do them like straight. I make a bend.
Yes, you do. But anyway, so the whole point of that is that all
how
of
we
it,
first learned
all of it can be learned,
Well, that's
and
kind of.
all of that can be developed. And it was really interesting to me because we moved to Ohio when Kate was 10 weeks old. And at that point, you know, I mean, I had been working at that point I was working for Lockheed Martin, and I was working on custom software application. Again, a completely different realm of the whole world.
This is your
and so whoops, there you go. But anyway, so it was a big change for me.
Stick figure.
Yep, here's our little stick figure. Yep. Except for when you're a little kid, you actually make the arms really long and then the feet really long, and usually they're shooting beams out their fingertips, and
So
but anyway,
this.
yeah, it's more like that. So anyway, what
That's
hang on, Jude. Anyway, oh, you know what? You guys hold tight. Kate, you come and entertain these guys for just a second. We're about to have no sound at all because my mic is about dead. So hold tight for just a second, everybody.
Like these guys.
Yep, Kate, you entertain people. Draw for them or something.
Contortion.
Oh yeah, you're gonna do gymnastics. There you go.
There's how you entertain people.
Oh, you're good. Okay, here goes our sound.
Oh, bye sound. Can I?
Levels. Okay, so do we have, okay, it looks like we've got sound again. All right, quick technical issue. But anyway, yeah, so hopefully the sound is back. Okay, so what I wanted to say with this was that when I got started, you know, it was a very new world to me, and because I was not very good at it, I didn't really want to make an investment in all the tools. Okay. Oh, that's lovely. So, looks like a Princess Chiari and a unicorn.
I didn't even think of that. I just drew a person and a unicorn.
Yeah,
So I guess
person and a
it's
unicorn.
me and my unicorn.
Felix, I'm in pain watching her. You know, and
How is that painful?
I work out with her.
It's
so
simple stretches. It's called
Yeah.
the Slurpee.
they're not simple stretches. She's been working on this for months.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay, so calm back down, please, for just a second. So anyway, the whole thing is that I didn't really want to spend the tools on this. Now, as I got going in it and I started to find out that I had kind of a knack for doing some jewelry, and I was really enjoying it, then I started to think a little bit more about some of the tools. Files never really crossed my mind. When it came to a flex shaft, my disc cutter, I knew I wanted a really good one there. When it came to my rolling mill, I knew I wanted to spend money there and get the good stuff. Okay, those are definitely 3 tools you should always spend your money on. Spend it once, spend it right. So your disc cutter, your flex shaft, and your rolling mill. So those definitely. But files, I didn't think anything of files. I could go over to the hardware store and pick up files. And one time, and a matter of fact, it was... so.
Somebody said the same thing you said.
What's that?
They're like, I'm in pain. Why?
I know, that's why I said it, because I read it. But anyway, so... Tool Time Tuesday didn't start off on YouTube. It started out on my blog. How old are you? 13 years ago or so? 13. So it started almost 14. So Tool Time Tuesday's been around for about 12 years. Okay, and the way Tool Time Tuesday started was, and videos, by the way, have only been around for 9 years. So I had a few years where I would do Tool Time Tuesday on my blog. And the way that that got started was like, just as I got going with this whole process, when you make jewelry, you need this tool. And when you make jewelry, you need that tool. And so on and so forth. And pretty quick, I had all these tools and I had no idea what to do with them. And so I thought, okay, well, at that point I had a blog following and I thought, okay, if I don't know how to use this stuff, maybe there's some other people that don't either. And as a way to make me go into the studio and learn how to use these, I would write a blog post on how to use them and whatever else. And so one of my friends who at the time was in a couple of the different jewelry forums, a couple of the jewelry forums and stuff that I'd been on, she had kind of a little mom and pop online tool selling business. And so she said, hey, as a gift, I would like to send you a file. I don't think you have a real file, and I would like to send you one, a nice one, so that you can see what the difference is. And I never spent the money on those files because it was like $25 or maybe it was $40. I don't even remember at the time. So, I mean, but it was substantially more than my $3 file from Home Depot. Okay, and when I got that file, and it was a number 2 flat file that she had sent me, it was amazing. The difference between that and my little $3 file that I got from Home Depot. That was the finest file that I could find at Home Depot. Okay, so it was totally a different experience because all of a sudden I found out that a coarse file, a number 2, is not as coarse as this. All right, and it made a huge difference. So when do you choose one file over the other? And of course, the one who really needs to know this just took off. So, but, and so maybe while we're waiting for her, let me tell you guys a little bit about some of the files that I have in my studio. Sherry, you said you struggle with creativity too, so let me know your secret. You know that making these videos sometimes is actually anxiety inducing for me, but again, it makes me get up and do it. So sometimes I just have to make myself do something. When it comes to creativity, I still struggle a lot with that. So we'll have some conversations about that, you know, ways to overcome those creative blocks, ways to kind of move through those creative blocks, or if you don't have a creative bone in your body, how to start maybe. All right, so we'll definitely do some of that. So let me tell you guys, actually let me change, which camera do I want? Let's change over to this camera real quick. Okay. Let me show you guys a few of the files. So here I've just kind of laid out, and you guys can't even see all of them yet, but a few of the files that I use in my studio. Now these files right here are kind of my go-tos. These I have back at my bench that sits behind me, so at least the majority of them. So as you can see, we've got a lot of flat files. In addition to the flat files, I also have 2 special files. One is called a half round file. Half round files are usually quite a bit more expensive, almost double the price of a flat file. But the thing that's really cool about the half round is that you get a half round. So you get a rounded side and you get a flat side. So if money is an issue and you really want to have that rounded file, go for the half round because it's like you're getting 2 files for one.
But aren't you paying like twice as much?
No, yeah, you could be. It could
You're
be.
paying for 2 files and getting 2 files.
Kind of. I guess that's a way to look at it. But it is still, if you only want one file, then the half round is your way to go. So this other file, and I can't remember the name of it, it just left my head right now. I wanted to say a crossing file. Maybe it is a crossing file.
Double half round.
I don't remember now. But anyway, no. Okay, shh, let me talk. So it has 2 rounded sides, but one is more rounded than the other. So these are used a lot for rings when you need to kind of get in there and get into that rounded surface. Okay, then this is a file that I have, and this one is a crossing file. That's what the other word for it is. So a ring file or a crossing file. Then I also have a checkering file.
A lot of slivers.
A lot of slivers. It's got a lot of silver in there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's holding on to it, but oh no, it's okay. I'm not worried about slivers. Slivers are not going to go into me right now.
You should probably get the silver out of it. How do you get the silver?
Ooh, good question. So there are.
I thought you got a sliver.
You thought I got a sliver? No, I did not give a sliver. Okay. So actually, while you guys entertain these guys, I'm going to go grab 2 things that I'll show you how to clean out your files. So here you can come over and do something fun. Oh, you're a bum.
Wait.
All right.
It's your birthday today.
Wait, whose birthday is it today?
Hurry. There's a cat.
Okay.
It's your birthday cake. It's your birthday today.
Anyway, that's what they sing to everybody when. Oh, hold on. No, we're done. That's what they sing to everybody when it's their birthday. Okay, so or else I'm gonna have to. You have to leave the room then. Okay, so a card file. Okay, shh. Or a file card. It's a file card. There we go. Now this is a really old one. This was given to me by a lady whose father had used to make jewelry. And she called me up out of the blue one day and said, "Do you make jewelry?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And she said, "Well, my dad used to make jewelry and I have a bunch of his tools. Can I bring them over?" Like I was gonna say nope. So anyway, this is a really old, cool file card. And the thing I like about this file card too is it's got this little stylus in it where it's ground to a really fine tip, which obviously you can also make yourself and whatever else. So, but you can, well, let me show you how to use it. So a file card has, see how like the little teeth or the bristles in here?
And they kind of bend.
They come up at an angle and then they bend. Okay, when you have a file, now the most traditional file that a lot of us use are what are called a Swiss cut file. A Swiss cut file is going to have teeth in this direction and also in this direction. Okay, but they're only going to file in one direction. So anytime I'm filing with my file, first of all, I'm going to hold my file like this. Finger is going to come up here like this. So this is kind of what it should look like. Okay. Reasons for that. One, I've got a nice solid grip here, but then I can also direct some of my force here with my finger.
If it's cut in both directions, why does it only file in one? Okay,
so it's cut like this and like this, but the teeth are angled only in one direction. So good question. So if you were to take the cross section of a file, think of your saw blades. Remember how our saw blades have teeth? Well, your file have those same teeth, but there's a whole row of them instead of just one. Does that make sense? So now we have like a whole bunch of them. All right, but look, if you look very, very closely, see how it comes down diagonally this way, but then there's one that goes up diagonally that way. You see that? It's not as easy to see on this one. Let's look at maybe a little more coarse file. That one's even worse to see that way. You have to kind of hold it at the right angle, and then you would be able to see that kind of cross section. So Swiss files, the whole term came from because in Vlorb, Switzerland, it's an actual city, is where they used to make these files. So, and it used to be Grobet and Vlorb were one company. So Grobet, you guys have probably mostly heard of. Vlorb may not be a brand that you've heard much of, because it has only been just in the last few years that that company broke apart, and Grobet now is made in Italy, whereas Vlorb is still in Switzerland. Okay, but Swiss cut files are the standard, and there is a specific, it talks about like how many teeth per inch are within that little pattern. Okay, and so that's part of that whole Swiss style. Yes. So when you have your file card, what you're going to do, and your file will only go in one direction. If I try to go in the other direction, it's not going to go as easily. Okay.
It looks like you're trying to use a hairbrush.
Yeah,
it's
kind of,
huh? Of it.
Yeah, yeah, just a little bit. So are we on this camera right here? So let me adjust this camera here for just a sec.
It's a file hairbrush.
Come in just a little bit. Okay. Here, wait. No, so anytime you do this, like you don't want to do it up in the air. Okay, now, first of all, I don't know if you guys can see this or not. Hang on, let me adjust this camera just a little more. And let's come in just a bit. Okay, so if you guys can see this on my file, there's some stuff that's stuck in the file. And if you can see, it kind of goes up at a diagonal. Can you guys see that okay on that screen? A little bit, but you can see that it kind of goes in a diagonal, all right? And so if I take this, I can follow that same diagonal, and what will happen is these little teeth will get into that and push that stuff out, okay? Whenever you do this, you want to hold it like on your bench pin or something else like that, so that way you've got kind of a good surface that you can work with, and then you can just kind of brush out that debris. Come here, you want to try this?
Can I do it on this one?
No, that's the checkering file. So that one's, I'll show you that in just a second. So come here, come over here. Okay, so you're going to hold your file here so that you can hold it up against this bench pin, right? And now you're going to take this. Let me zoom you guys out just a sec so I can show you guys what we're doing. And you're going to take this and you're going to come like this. Now notice you're holding this down here. If you hold this down here, you have no pressure up here. So yes, just like that. That's good. And then you can really give it some pressure as you push that through and clean out those teeth. As you get into finer and finer files, it will be a little bit more difficult to do that. And I was trying to find, I have a little brass cleaner that I've made, but I wasn't able to find it. I don't know what I've done with that. Good job. Okay, so let me show them one other thing. Okay, so let's say we have our file. What you can do, this one's a really fine one, so there's not a whole lot in it. Okay, good question. What about on the rounded ones? Can I see that, please? So the rounded ones are going to have the same type of thing, except that what you're going to do is you're just going to follow that curve. Okay, and you can even come in just like that, and you can always flip it over and come in from the opposite direction as well.
Can I try this one later?
So, good question, yes.
Good question, yes.
Good question, and yes. All right. So another thing that I've done is I took a piece of 14 gauge brass, and brass seems to work really, really well for this. And I don't know what, like I said, I don't know what happened to it. So pretend that this is 14 gauge brass. Pretend that it's flat all the way across on here. And what you would do, let me switch you back down to this camera and zoom you in just a little bit. So what you would do is you would come in, and let's see which way our teeth go, this way. You would just kind of follow down that angle with that brass. And what it will do is it will push out the material that's in there. And eventually you're going to end up getting little grooves in the end of your wire. And it's lovely because then it just sits right, it seats into place and you can just push things out. Okay. So how often do you clean your files? Obviously I'm not been cleaning mine nearly enough. So you should be cleaning your files quite regularly. Now another thing too, so this happens to be from that same gentleman whose daughter brought the tools over to me. So this file is probably, I'll bet this file is a good 80 years old. Matter of fact, this one is a genuine Stubbs England file, a cut 2. Okay, and this one has definitely had a lot of life and a lot of love. Okay, but it cuts beautifully still. And that's the thing too, is if it's still cutting well, you're good to go on using it. Just clean it out. But every now and then you may get rust in these. Okay, and rust is a whole other ballpark altogether. And I have to tell you guys, I absolutely love living in Utah. It is so nice and dry. I very rarely worry about rust in my studio.
What happens when you do get rust though?
Good question. So there's a number of things that you can do for rust, and I think we'll actually do a video on that sometime. Like we'll go get some rusty tools and we'll show you how to clean it up. That's just copper. That's just copper that's embedded in there still. That's all. So yeah, you could keep working on that and eventually you'll get it out.
Can I try a different one?
You want to try a different file? Yeah, try this file. Clean that one out. So carding your file, like what Kiari is doing, is one way to clean it. But then the other thing that you can do is you can soak it in vinegar, or there's a couple of other acid solutions out there that you can soak them in. But a lot of people will do vinegar. Now the thing that you have to do when you soak it in any kind of an acid is once you have left that to soak and it's removed all of the rust, you need to make sure that you put it in some kind of neutralizing solution. Usually just like a baking soda and water will do fine. But immediately after that, dry it really well and then get some kind of an oil or protectant on it to help. Otherwise, you will dry it off, you'll put it down, and seriously, within a matter of 12 to 24 hours, you're gonna have rust again. Okay, so it doesn't take long for that to get going again. Music Easel Cat, you just got here. Did you miss anything? Well, of course. No, probably not much. Probably just fine.
You must have been talking for the first 27 minutes.
Are we on 27 minutes already? Holy cow. Okay, so we talked a little bit about how to clean the files. Some of the different file shapes. Flat is going to be by far my most used. After that, then I would say the half round or one of the rounded files. But then you also have a lot of other specialty files. Now, in addition to all of this, Felix, you said you use a 4-inch wire wheel to get rust out of the files. Oh, that's a good one too. Yeah, a wire wheel would. Felix, do you find that you ever dull your files when you're doing that? I've never tried that one, so that would be kind of an interesting one to try. Okay, so the files that I'm showing you guys here are 6-inch files. Okay, so these are all 6-inch hand files. When you get a file like this, they do not have a handle on them. And I will tell you guys what, I just found the best handles. I absolutely adore these handles, and they're like $3 a piece. I don't even think they're $3 a piece. They might be a little bit less. And I'll put the link to these in the description of the video after we're done. Or you can go out to toolcandystore.com and look for file handles. So Felix, you said no because the files are so much harder than the wire. That makes sense.
Another one.
You want to do another one? How about you do this one? I never put handles on my files. I never did, and I got in big trouble from Alan Revere last year for not having handles on my files. It really is a safety issue, and quite actually it's a comfort issue too. If I'd known how much more comfortable they were like this, I would have put them on a million years ago. I do have a video showing how to put these handles on. Matter of fact, I'm going to unmount some of my handles and I'm going to drill a little larger hole, because on the bottom of a file, Oh, I do have one. So a file, the end looks a little like that, so it tapers down, okay, but it comes up to a wide point. Well, when you get these handles, you can get it in, and then you just use a hammer. So I put this into my vise, like I put some copper or leather around this to hold it into place. I put that in, I put the handle on, and then we tap it down. But as you get wider, I mean, you can only compress the wood so much. And I didn't even think about it, but somebody who was watching the video said, you know, if you drill those out just a little bit larger, it'll go all the way in. So that's one of my things that I'll probably do here in the next few weeks. But anyway, so get a good file handle. I'll link the video that shows the different file handles that I have here in the studio and whatever. But these files are fantastic, but I do a lot of really little work. So this, I would use a file like this if I were, let's say I wanted to file this round here on the end, okay? And so I would want a nice large file to do that. It gives me a lot of surface area, and
if you want to be safer, like if you don't want any slivers to get into your eye, wear safety glasses.
Absolutely, wear your safety glasses. We're big on wearing safety glasses around here, aren't we?
Who's ready for
There's a type, but that one's not mine.
What?
Who's ready for quarantine?
Oh, I think everybody's ready for quarantine to be over.
Who's ready for quarantine to be over the moment it started?
That was not mine.
I know. Yours are right there. Okay, so anyway, so here's another thing. All right, so girls, I want you guys to pay attention to this because you need to know this, especially as I start having you guys work in your projects. You want to hold your file. Okay, so this is how I'm holding my file, like this. You always work at your bench pin, so you're always going to be up against it somewhere. So why do we want to mount, why do we want to have up against the bench pin?
So then it's not like moving everywhere, so it stays still.
Right, so if I'm up here doing this, and sometimes I do, like sometimes I will use my hands a little differently, okay? But by having this here, then I'm able to really stabilize what it is that I'm doing, okay? I'm able to push harder because here, if I'm here, I can push up harder against this because this hand isn't free. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's something that you want to keep in mind.
31 minutes.
And you can put whatever kind of groove in here you want. So this one's been cut into, but there's a lot of them that have all kinds of different grooves.
I hate the sound.
I know, sorry. Okay, and you can do all kinds of different things, and this bench pin should be altered to whatever you're doing. Matter of fact, when the bench pins come in, they're solid.
This is why you need to get multiple bench pins.
Yeah, I like having multiple bench pins. So this is one that I have not altered yet.
Go through 1 and 3 projects.
Yeah, you could. But you know what? Some people just do it with one bench pin everything. And that's fine too.
That's fine, but some of them need it rounded, some of them need it.
Not necessarily, because what you do is you just do different shapes all over your bench pin. So it allows you to get into different things. So here's another reason why I would want to have this bench pin modified. So here I have a ring. There's a sprue at the end of the ring. Okay.
Like, was it like a mold?
This came off of a mold, and so this was cast. Now, here's another thing too, before we get into doing the other shapes. So I have here, let's switch back to this camera for just a sec. I have here a number of files that all look very similar, okay? And we'll throw one more in for good measure. Do you know what the difference besides their shape? Because there's 2 flat ones here, and then there's 2 that kind of come up to a taper. All flat surfaces. Any ideas what the difference is between these files?
What they can do.
In a sense, some are finer than others. What does that mean?
It means that they can, like, you've got to start with different ones because some of them will be able to.
Some of them are going to remove a lot more metal than another one. And that is the numbering system that comes on these. Now, they start, oh my gosh, I don't even remember, like there's some very, very coarse ones. I wanted to say 0 is your coarsest, but it's not. There's 00, and I think there might even be a 000. And those, man, you could probably brush your hair with those because they're so coarse. But if I have a lot of metal to remove, I want to start with a coarse file. Okay, and the reason for that is because it is going to remove my metal or what my material is much faster than a finer file.
Well, don't have a hairbrush, no problem. I've got a file.
Yeah, but got a file.
Got a file for
It's
you.
a little mermaidish, right?
Can I try this file?
Hang on just a second.
brushing it.
So anyway, well, man, maybe you could use some of them as a fork or something. So anyway, I wanted to remove this sprue, and I wanted to remove it fairly quickly. And you can see that, I mean, there, I'm almost done, right? You guys can see that? Okay, and notice that I'm working here against my bench pin.
It almost looks like it's polished in it.
Okay, another thing, yeah, it does almost look like there's a polish. So I think we're probably good right there. Well, it's because it came right out of, it's just been cast. It hasn't been cleaned up yet. So it allows me to get this pretty fine. Okay, this was a number 2 file. If I wanted to refine that, because see how there's still some strokes here, and I don't know if those show up on the video, but there's still some file strokes on here. I can now switch over to a number 4. Do you hear the difference?
She's already got the rings guts on the little...
The ring's guts?
It's the rings guts.
Are you sure that's the guts? I think that's kind of its skin. All right, but anyway, so
blood.
by switching over to a 4, it's a finer file. So you start with your coarse file. Okay, can you stop? You are just going to town, like cleaning those files, baby. Anyway.
My dirty files.
So you start with a coarse one, and that's going to leave a lot of marks. And then you can move to a finer file, and you can remove those marks, and you get almost to a pre-polish. So these files will go from, you know, the ones that I use here in my studio are probably like a 1. So the finer files from Home Depot and Lowe's and whatever else, I would probably put those at as like a number 1. They're not as coarse as a 0, which I would kind of equate that one to like some of the wood files, like really, really gritty coarse. Those are going to be terrible to use on metal, especially the thinner metals that we use here in the studio. Okay, that's making a lot of noise, honey.
Ow.
Thank you. All right, so I would say if you do the finer file from Home Depot, that should be probably your coarse file for the studio. Okay, at least that's for mine, the majority of the metal work that I'm doing. So then we go from a 0, a 1. A 1 is, like I said, probably about what I get from the hardware store. A cut 2, that is going to be kind of my coarse one that I have here in the studio, is that cut 2. And then I go to a 4, and then you can even go to a 6. And the 6 is going to be even finer. I believe there is an 8, but I've never had an 8. That would be like really, really fine. Okay. So we've talked about the hand files. You've seen that they're a little bit bigger, right? So now let's talk about some of these smaller files, because do you think, whoop, I'm dropping everything, I know. Do you think,
Let's go.
do you think I could use those big files to get inside of this and file some of that away?
No, I already
so
have
talking, right, there's no way, right? Well, I mean, I guess you could, but it would be very difficult. So at this point, then we want to move to some smaller files. Actually, even smaller than those. And these are called needle files. What?
I don't think I could sew with that.
No, no, but they are called needle files, okay? Now, how do you hold a needle file? Let's take a look here. So let's say we wanted to file, let's say we've got this, okay? So if I've got ooh, here's actually a really good one, because look, I have a little bit of a lip right here on this. Okay, so I have a little bit of a lip there. Now this file is flat. Is that going to be a good file to get into this? What do you think?
Don't you need a curved one?
Yes, I would want a curved file. Now that's the thing that's kind of cool. The needle files usually come in packs anywhere from 6 to 12. So you have a lot of variety of what you can use for the needle files.
And
Now this was
a large amount of needle files.
Yeah, but you know what though? You use them and they come in all kinds of different profiles. So you said I needed one that was kind of curved. So I'm gonna find one, here it is, that's a little bit curved. Now this particular one came from Harbor Freight. I think I paid like $5 maybe for the set of these files. And you know what? They're $5 files too. So you want to be kind of aware of that. So anyway, let's see, Alice, you said that you just realized that she pushed the card. Yes, yeah, if you push it, it's going to go a little bit easier. Okay. So anyway, what I want to do when I'm filing, and that's something that we haven't really talked about yet with the files either, they cut in one direction. Okay, so I'm going to push that file and it's going to cut. If I pull back, nothing is going to happen. Now, there is like this huge thing, and this was a huge thing when I first got started, and people would get so upset, and they still will. You guys watch if you guys haven't already heard this argument. They say you always kind of push that file in the way that the teeth are cut. So remember our saw blades, our teeth were down and out so that when we kind of pulled, then it would do our cut. Well, in this case, I'm going to push because my teeth are kind of pointing up away from the handle. So I'm going to push. Now, some people will hold their file like this and they will pull. So I can't always say push your file, okay? But you want to go away from the handle is the direction that you want to go. So if my file handle is down, I'm going to push up. If I'm holding it so that it's like this, then I'm going to push down away from that file, the handle.
Pushing no matter, you're pushing up or
pushing or pulling, whatever. But yeah, so they're only going to cut in one direction. Now, here was the argument, is that you should never go like this. Okay, in jewelry, oh no, I don't want a gobstopper. I can't eat with and talk with a gobstopper, but thank you. Anyway, sure, I'll bet you can, and you sound like you got a mouthful of marbles.
Really?
Yes. So anyway, when you're working with gold, brass, silver, your file is so much harder than those materials. You're not going to damage your file if you happen to pull it down. Okay, and sometimes I will do this kind of a thing, especially if it helps to keep me into a set position where I need to be. Otherwise, I do push up and then I'll lighten up and come down, but I might run it against my metal just to kind of keep things in place. So that's one thing that, again, you may hear. So anyway, your files only cut in one direction. Okay, and a lot of people feel like it's comfortable in their handle to hold it and pull it down, but nothing will really happen if that's how you do it. So it takes a little bit of time, and now for me to do that is so awkward, but it made sense to me when I first started that you would kind of file this way, but it really is that I'm going to push it away. Okay, so hopefully that kind of helps there with that as well. So these file sets, the needle file sets, some of them will come with handles. So like I said, this is like a cheap set that I bought from Harbor Freight, and they are cheap. And then here is a set that I bought from Auto Fry. Okay, and these are a Swiss velour file. So when Alan Revere still had his academy there in San Francisco, this was one of their student kits that they put together, because you can buy each of these files individually. Individually, I want to say that they're going to run about $10 to $15 per file. Okay, and then you can also buy the set. Oh, I don't see that it has a price on it anymore. And I'll put a coupon code. I have a coupon code for Auto Fry, and it will take 5% off of your purchase with that. And I'll get that into the description as well. But anyway, the thing that was nice about this is that there were multiple files. So I have 2 flat files, but one is a cut 2 and one is a cut 4. And then there's a number of barrette files, flat files, round files, a triangle file, or what they call a 3-square file. Your triangle is a 3-square. Anyway, that one still throws me off and weird. But anyway, those do not have handles, but you can buy handles for those. And I thought I pulled it over here. Did I not? Oh, here it is. So you can get handles for these, and basically it has an opening where you can then slip your file handle down, tighten that up, and now you have a file handle. So you can do something like that, and you could purchase multiples of these. It just depends on what it is that you're wanting to do. What are you two doing? You guys are being weirdos. So anyway, that's an option. With the needle files, I very rarely use the handle, but if I'm working on a piece that uses a lot of these and it requires a lot of time, then absolutely I will throw that into a handle. So Kiari, how would you hold a needle file if you wanted to work on this piece? What do you think? So I showed you before how we held this file, right? But that's kind of hard to do on that one, even with your tiny little hands. Don't you think?
But they're tiny.
They are tiny. Did you just lock my chair? Or did we lock your chair? Okay, so what I'm going to do...
No, sure.
Look, hold on. Okay, guys. So I'm still going to hold it the same way. See this? I still hold it the same way. Okay? So I'm still going to support with my finger. That way I can come in here and I can push. Now, do you guys notice what I'm doing with my file? Did you notice that I use the whole file? See that? Okay, you don't ever want to just do this type of a thing, because all you're going to do is just remove a little itty bitty bit and you're going to create facets. All right, so it's better if you take this and you go all the way around. Now in this case, I wanted a rounded corner. Okay, but if I want to have a flat spot, here's something that Alan Revere showed me when I was working with him last year. So what you want to do is you want to have your bench pin so that your elbow kind of sits almost at a 90-degree angle. Okay, you want to take your file. So let's say that I'm filing, oh, stop with the bunny ears. Stop, please. Let's say that, this will work. It's kind of, I wonder if I've got my cutters here. Hold tight for 2 seconds. What's that? Okay.
Now they're going to see the bunny ears.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say I have a wire here. So in this case, this is a twisted wire. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I need to have some kind of, we need to switch our camera.
From Sweden.
From Sweden? One day I'm going to go to Sweden.
Alice said that she always learns good stuff.
You have to take us.
Oh, good, Alice. I'm so glad that you're learning good stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this file here just to kind of create a little groove for me to hold this. Okay, so imagine now my elbow is kind of at a 45, but my wrist doesn't necessarily only stay stiff, right? And what I want to do is I want to find out there's an angle. You guys see, and this is so much more pronounced in this video. My hand is not at that steep of an angle. But anyway, what I want to do is I'm going to hold my piece at that same angle so that when I come down, I can get a flat surface onto my piece, and then I'm going to come up.
It looks strange.
Okay, and when you come down, you're just going to slap down onto it so that it, yep, you slap down onto your piece. And it allows me to get that nice flat surface on the piece that I'm after. Well, not sloppy, not slop. It's not a slap. All right, so anyway, so you're gonna come down onto it. And you wanna bring your piece to the angle of your body, not your body to the angle of your piece. So if you've got something flat here, in order for me to get flat, I would have to come up, but that's unnatural. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna angle the piece so that I can get my flat to match that flat of my file. Okay, so that's something, and that when I learned that, it was like, oh my gosh, that feels so much better because I'm not trying to contort my body in a natural way. Okay, so that's something else you guys may want to kind of consider. So again, even though it's a needle file, I'm going to hold it that same way. So when I've got that control, I'm good to go. All right, so Kate, we talked about the cuts on the files, the 0, 2, 4, 6. Do you
0, 0, 0.
Yes.
300 0.
Hey, look, we got somebody from Scotland. We were supposed to be in Scotland a year ago. That didn't happen, darn it. We'll have to see about going next year. That would be fun. All right. So do you think that those files, or those sizes, those cuts, the 0, 2, 4, 6, do they exist also in the needle files?
I'm too light.
Absolutely.
I can't push down the chair.
You're too light?
Yeah.
Okay.
On these chairs, I'm too light.
In addition to needle files, we also have microfiles. Okay, so
that looks more like a needle.
That looks like a needle file.
If you change it to...
Okay, and again, hang on, let's come down to this.
It's still the...
So these two are what are called a barrette file. A barrette file has a kind of a... It's got 3 sides to it. And the back side is what we call blind. Do you know what a blind face is on a file?
I'm taller than all you.
Okay, shh. A blind file means that there's no teeth on it. So I can run this right up against a stone and I'm not ever going to have to worry about damaging my stone. Whereas if I hit it with my file face, then it can actually damage the stone. Okay, so both of these. So look at this. This is the needle file and then this is the micro file. And see the size difference there? Carrie, you need to hold still, baby. Okay, so and not only that, you need to know this stuff because you're going to start working on your project soon. Okay, now let me show you guys another file. So we have another type of file that's a little different, and this one...
The chair's even locked.
Hers is?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so again, we have the needle files, no handles, some with handles, different cuts. Let me put these back in here. Another thing I want to show you guys too is even when they're in a packet like this, notice that there's like this little plastic cover here. It's going to cover up this half, and then when I close it, and what that does is it keeps your files from rubbing up against each other.
Otherwise they're going to pile down the other files, and then they're going to be no more files.
That's exactly right.
They'll have a file battle.
That is exactly right.
And your files shall be no more.
That is exactly right. So, when you have that, when you've got all your files, you want to figure out a way to store them so that they are not in the drawer on top of each other or anything like that, because that is exactly how you damage those files.
If they are like that, then they'll have another file.
Do you want a simple way to just make sure that they don't have contact? Put your files, put a paper, put more files.
Well, yeah, but then you can't see through your paper to get your file.
But if you're just storing them for a small amount of time.
Okay, that's a thing. So the other thing that I've seen on some benches is people will drill through their handle and then hang a string on it, and then they can hang their files. My files, I have a little cabinet that I bought at Harbor Freight that I can just lay them all out flat so that they're side by side. When I'm working back here on my bench, I have a little tray here and I can lay them out flat here on the tray. So usually I only have about 3 or 4 files at my bench. And then my needle files I stick in the drawers.
This was on Kate's foot.
That's okay. It's a zip tie from when we took down the camera. So here's another interesting type of file. And Kate, I want you to tell me what you think this type of file would be used for. Let's pull it down here to this camera. Cream cheese, huh?
What?
I would think one of those cream cheese
spreaders.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Okay. But so this one is a pretty coarse cut. You can see how coarse this one is, right? I mean, that one's got some pretty gritty teeth on there. Why do you think, let me look at these. Okay. Hang on. Why do we think we would need these?
Can I hold one?
Yeah. What do you think? Kiara, what do you think? What would you need a file like that for?
So here's one that's like more rounded.
Yeah, so they've got it in different shapes. So there's rounded,
with that one, you could actually just like go like this, and if it was a round ring, you could do that.
These are called escapement files.
There's the file on that side.
And then it's blind on the back. So Kiara, shh, please. So these are escapement files. And an escapement file is a file that has a curved surface to it. Okay, and the curved surface allows you, I've got to get these all in here so that they'll line back up. The curved surface allows you to get into tight spots that you wouldn't be able to normally with other files. And I do not have a good example of that here. I don't. Oh, yes, I do. Let's say we look at this.
Does it look like some really nice files?
Yeah, these are pretty nice files. Yes, they can be.
How expensive were yours?
I do not recall. I don't recall.
What does that mean? You don't call somebody?
So Naz, you said wax files. You can definitely do wax files in this configuration, and I probably could use a wax file for this. This one says that it's a cut too, but that is pretty gritty for a cut too. So I would probably use that one more for a wax, but you can get them in finer cuts as well. So here would be an example of where maybe I would use this. Let's say that we've got some solder or something like that that's right here against this bezel. Okay, so we have this partial bezel on our piece. Well, I would take this triangular one. See how that comes to a point?
Yeah.
Okay, and then here's the thing too. These have a square shank here in the middle, or a square handle that you would hold on to. So I would hold up here. I wouldn't hold down here. I would hold right up here
Then
where it's that square.
Dab right there.
Nope, not if I'm holding it right.
Because for me, it would probably do that.
And see this triangular one, I can now get into my piece and just kind of come up and work it right into that corner right there. Okay, so that would be an example of where we wanted to get into. I can also do it from the inside if I needed to come on the inside of that. But that's, I mean, if you tried to do that with, let's say, a needle file, this is the wrong file entirely, but let's say we tried it. I could do it here on the outside, but on the inside, the only part that would ever touch would be the tip. Whereas here, yeah, whereas here, look at that. See what I would be able to get in there? Does that make sense? So those escapement files allow you to get into different areas like that. Does that make sense? Okay. Then there's another type of file. And these aren't really files per se. I mean, they're called files. It's called a buff file.
Buff file.
A buff file.
Buff file.
Kiara, come here. Give me your finger. Okay, give me your finger. Tell me what this feels like.
Really?
Almost feels like silk, huh? Okay. Mm-hmm.
It almost feels like a round ball is coming off.
What does it feel like?
Just smooth.
Yeah, it is super smooth. Can you feel the gritty though that's still there?
A little bit.
Very, very light. Okay. The buff files are basically burnishers. They have a little bit of grit to them. So it is an abrasive, but it's super fine.
It feels like glass almost.
Almost like glass. You know what? It reminds me of the glass nail files.
You have
But this is
those?
but this is
Why
even
do you
finer
have
than one of those glass nail
Why
files.
do you have a glass nail file if you can't use it?
You can. You use it on your fingernails.
You
But
can't
it's
even
glass
see.
completely.
Well, it's glass, but it's got that grit to it, so that's what files top down.
See it.
Yeah, no, you cannot see these. Like they just kind of have a matte finish to them. Okay, and so those come in both the needle file, and then check out the microfile size.
Microfile?
Look at this. So here's two that have the same profile. Let me show you the difference. Let's switch back down to this camera again.
This one has...
Okay, so look at the difference of their sizes. See that? Yeah, the tiny one, and it has a nice long handle so we can still hold on to it and do what we need to. And these are the same profile, they're the same cut, so these are both buff files, but this one's going to allow me to get into even tighter areas, right? Okay. All right, so that's something. Now, here's another little tool I want to show you guys really quickly. Two tools, really fast, and then we're pretty much done. And I think I just put the wrong files in the wrong thing. I did.
Good job.
Yeah, you know, it happens. Okay, so you notice that I've kept these cases. All right, and then they hold everything nice and neat, and everything is stored together. So that's, I usually, especially when I've got a case like this, I have that.
What? Is
So
Riley
Gordo,
on?
you store your needle file on a magnet bar mounted on the wall in front of my work area. And you want to know what? I'm about to do something similar here at my bench. I don't know if I'll store my files or not. Now, do you guys know what happens when you store a file on a magnetic bar? Or a drill bit or a burr? Well, it'll stick to it, but do you know what happens to it over time?
I'll break it.
It becomes magnetic. But is that going to be an issue if I'm working with copper, silver, and gold?
Yeah.
No,
Oh no.
because they're not magnetic metals. But what happens is when you set it down next to a burr, all of a sudden your burr sticks to your file, or your burrs stick to each other, or anything like that.
Magnetic.
That's just kind of what happens with that. That's just how physics works. I know. Okay, so anyway, so a couple tools that go along with files, and these are not too inexpensive. They're about $60, so there's definitely some price to them, but oh my goodness, it saves your life. Okay, this is called a miter vise. Yes, yes, you definitely, this is
Once you die, do
salvation.
you use that?
Uh-huh, exactly.
No, like if you go blah.
No, but when I'm creating a bezel, or if I need to make certain something is completely flat. So remember, we did some tube setting, right? And when we did our tube setting, we already had tubes. You tired already? So we already had pre-made tubes, but sometimes when you make your own and you cut it with a jeweler saw, there's a little bit of an angle. So what you do, and I don't even have a tube here, or even a big piece of wire. Well, here's one he's kind of square, but anyway, we'll use this. So let's say that I wanted to have a flat surface on this. What you would do is you open up this little jig far enough that you can get your metal into it. Okay, and then I'm going to close that down wherever I want to have that filed away. So in this case, let's say we're going to we'll stick them out just a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to tighten this up, and I do this for wires, I do it for sheet. This one happens to be a wire with a square profile, but there's these little square profile holes in there, so it lines up just perfectly right there in that as well.
Then what?
So now what do we do? Good question. So now let's bring you back down here. I'm going to bring this here. I'm going to lay it down on here, and on this one I'm going to use a pretty coarse file. Okay, so we want to use this guy. So anyway, what I'm going to do, this is a really coarse one, but now I can come in here just like this, and the metal of this miter vise is hard, so it's not even going to matter if I hit it with my files. Okay, and see how quickly that is?
Will it file away over time though?
It's possible. And now I'm going to move it around because I want to hit it from multiple angles, just like so. Okay, and again, I'm going to move it around so I can hit it from another direction. And like I said, this is a really, really coarse file here, so it's making pretty quick work of this. All right, and now, and I could keep going because it's not completely flat yet, but it's almost there. But you see how that works. So the thing that's nice is, like, if I have to do a bezel, and you guys are going to learn this here in a few days because we're going to do some bezel setting. When you have a bezel, you need that bezel wire to come together and be completely flush so that you have a really good seam and join. Because if all you do is come together like that, you're only going to have one little part that is soldered closed. And when you're doing bezel work, you actually need to have a really good join. So this is one of my tools that I really like for that. And I'll show you guys another one that's made by another jeweler once we get into doing that bezel setting. But anyway, so that's a really good tool to have to go along with your files as well. What questions do you guys have on what we talked about? Because once the camera turns off,
I don't really have a question, but I want to say something.
Okay.
Can we go to sleep?
Are you
Or
that
take a
tired?
nap?
You're almost done with all your homework, and then yes, you can.
I'm tired.
Actually, we've got to work on our taekwondo stuff.
I've got one.
Yeah, the lawn needs to be mowed. Dinner's already all prepping. It's all marinating and everything. We're going to make our own handmade pasta tonight. Yeah. Anyway, so hopefully that helps you guys understand a little bit more about files, a little more about the cuts. We didn't get too much into the different shapes of the files. Again, really the ones that I use, I don't really get into the shapes too much until I start working with needle files. And even then, with the needle files, I just pick whichever one is going to work into the crevice that I'm trying to file the best. Okay, so it's not like I even say, oh, I'm always going to use a barrette file for this. Nope, sometimes I'll use a round file just to get into a corner a little bit better or something like that. So you've got triangular files, which are called 3-square. So if you ever hear that term, 3-square, 3-square, isn't that weird?
Sounds like a toddler trying to describe a triangle. A 3-square.
Yep, a 3-square. So that is definitely there. You've got cuts from 0, 0, and even lower than that, all the way through 8. Now, I think your name is pronounced Arkham, so I apologize if I slaughtered your name. As far as finding the 6 to 8, the 6 files, like cut 6, I can usually find. Those are definitely going to be more expensive because they are finer files. So as you go up in the grits, or I guess kind of the fineness, as you get finer and finer, it's a more involved process. So the finer you get, the more expensive the file is going to be. I would definitely look at the files with at toolcandystore.com. I can't talk now. So anyway, look there at toolcandystore.com. We can also get at toolcandystore.com. We can also get other files, and we've been talking with a couple of other companies about bringing some others in. The ones that I really like are the original Grobets. I love those, and those are the when Grobet and Velorb were together. It used to be Grobet Velorb, but now Grobet has gone off on their own. They're now made in Italy, and then you have Velorb Swiss, who was the original company. Okay, so really, you're going to be good with either one of them. They're beautiful files. They're well made.
Let me guess, the Fluff Master is Riley?
That's Riley.
Hi, Riley!
So you've got.
How you get on?
And then
We've
you.
been doing this for
Hang
1
on. Let me finish my thought. You keep making me lose my thought. Okay. So anyway, so you've got. You have a number of them out there. Auto Fry, I will include my discount code for you there. It'll take 5% off. Grobet, or not Grobet, Auto Fry, there we go. Auto Fry carries the Velorb Swiss line, and they have pretty much everything there from Velorb Swiss as well. So you have a number of different options out there. Again, I'll put some links into the description once this video gets posted up there. And I think you girls are almost ready to start working on some projects. Once the video ends, I'm going to have you guys work on a couple things to kind of get used to holding the files and feeling them. Really? You're going to yawn on me? We got one that's, oops. Anyway, so you guys have a wonderful day, and we will see you guys again tomorrow.
Bye, Riley.
Bye, everybody. Have a good one.
It's all right, Riley.